I torpedoed a dude's entire career because he was a bully. After graduating college, I decided to follow in my mother's professional footsteps. She's made a name for herself in a niche, highly lucrative industry, and while I deeply respect her success, I wanted to earn my own. To keep things professional and avoid nepotism, I took my dad's surname and never disclosed who my mother was to my employers. I also made a point not to work at her company. In this industry, trial periods are standard. You're hired for a few months with no strings attached. Either party can walk away without consequence. I joined a mid-sized company for one of these trials, eager to prove myself, and for the most part, I did. My work ethic stood out. First in, last out, and I kept things running smoothly. Most of my colleagues were welcoming, even grateful to have someone willing to handle fires and cleanup. Everyone but one guy. Let's call him Jerk. From day one, Jerk went out of his way to be hostile. I'm a naturally easygoing person and usually get along with people just fine, but this guy wasn't having it. Every time someone praised a colleague's work, he had to chime in with how easy the task was for him. When someone voiced a concern, he'd scoff and brag about having done it without issue. If the team discussed long-term plans or someone's potential, he'd make passive-aggressive comments implying none of us were cut out for the job. He was especially nasty to women. I later learned he made several comments about how moms shouldn't be in this field and how it wasn't a female-friendly career. He'd say demeaning things behind my back too, about my looks, my masculinity, even my family status, but nothing outright enough to file a complaint. Still, the energy he brought poisoned the entire team dynamic. Management tolerated him because, according to them, he was ambitious. At the end of my trial period, they offered me a permanent spot. I turned it down. I didn't want to work for a place that rewarded toxic behavior, and I had no interest in being their workhorse anymore. On my last day, people said their goodbyes, shared kind words, and Jerk, he laughed and mocked me, loudly announcing to the room that he'd predicted I wouldn't make it. I didn't respond. I just walked out. I moved on. Got hired at another firm, one I liked much better. The vibe was healthier, the work fulfilling, and I was promoted quickly. I mostly forgot about Jerk until months later when I started noticing applicants from my old company trickling in. It's a small industry, so movement isn't rare, but still, there were more than usual. One day, my boss tells me we've got an applicant from my previous job and asks if I know them. I look at the name. It's Jerk. I tell my boss I can't be objective. He presses, since I'm usually generous in my opinions. So, I level with him. I tell him about the bullying, the way Jerk demoralized team members, especially women, and how he soured the whole environment. My boss listens, thanks me for my honesty, and doesn't hire him. I think that's the end of it. Until dinner with my mom a week later. She casually asks if I knew someone named Jerk from my trial job. Turns out, he'd applied to her company too. I hadn't even mentioned his name to her, but she'd already heard of the behavior I described from when I vented after quitting that job. Once she knew it was him, his application went straight into the trash. A few more weeks pass, and we end up hiring a woman who left Jerk's company. She quickly figures out we have a connection, and over lunch one day, tells me the full story. After I left, Jerk got promoted, and that's when people really started leaving. His promotion drove out talent. Management started investigating. Why were so many good workers leaving after their trials? Why weren't strong applicants accepting permanent roles? It all led back to Jerk. They had a sit down with him, tried to coach him, but apparently he wasn't open to change. He got fired. That's when he applied to my firm and my mother's. When neither bit, he tried a couple more companies in the area, but word travels fast in a small field. Last I heard, he's no longer working in the industry at all.